Welcome to Inspiring Insurance. Our goal is to provide value to the insurance industry through real-life experiences from insurance professionals who have walked the walk. You can expect to hear story sharing, top tips, and practical advice to help you grow and succeed in your career. We hope you enjoy this episode's guest. Alrighty, Inspiring Insurance episode number 12, Kirsty Dowell. This is a bit of a special episode for me because it's not too often that you get to put someone that you've built a great relationship with over the last few years in front of the camera and put them under the spotlight. So I'm really excited to welcome Kirsty to this episode. Thank you for joining me and taking the time.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
No worries. Well, we're going to start with your background. You have been with essentially the same business, your business, which has gone through a bit of a journey for the last, almost 20 years. Why don't you walk us through it?
So the business started in 2003 by my father, Mike Papalato, and it was a sort of new office under the banner of Your Insurance Broker. So they still have their head office in Caloundra, great business, and Mike started the Brisbane office for that. We were YIB for a few years. We then split and merged with Link Insurance Brokers. And after about 3 years, we sort of went through the process of going out on our own and starting up Stellar Insurance Brokers name. So we've kept all our same clients, sort of dragged our clients along for the journey, unfortunately. But we did name Stella after my daughter because it was just, we went through a period of time that probably just wasn't as favourable as we would have liked. And she was sort of the light of that sort of kept us going. So for us, we sort of played on her name a bit and rebranded as Stella. And that way then we've sort of promised our clients we won't do any more name changes. This name is really important to us, and that's the name that's going to stay. And then in respect of my journey, so I joined the business in 2007, so have been with Mike for the last 18 so years. I am a second generation insurance professional. Mike wasn't always in broking. He spent 30 years in underwriting before starting up broking. But I grew up around insurance, hated it, vowed I would never, ever be an insurance professional. Finished school, went to uni and studied animal studies. So I am a qualified wildlife biologist by trade. But sort of back 20 years ago, the world didn't really care so much about the environment as much as it did now. So job opportunities were very slim and lacking. And I just sort of caught up and had lunch with Mike one day and was complaining about how I couldn't find a job, and he was complaining about how he couldn't find and keep good staff. And so we kind of just came up with an arrangement that I would work for him temporarily until I found my real job. And here I am still 18 years later. So I sort of fell in love with insurance, understood why all those years growing up, that Mike was very passionate about it. I'm very passionate about it now, and so I then had my sort of journey through the business. So part of the condition, obviously, coming on to the business was that I didn't get any special treatment. I was just treated like every other employee. I wasn't coming in as the boss's daughter or anything like that. So I definitely had to work hard, earn my stripes. Probably, if anything, I had to work a little bit harder. So there was no favoritism or anything depicted throughout the business. So came in sort of from ground, like bottom level, worked my way up. And yeah, it's just sort of been a case of over the years, sort of like I was probably in the business for about 4 or 5 years before I actually decided that, yeah, you know what, I actually want to give this a really red hot go, and I want it to be my career, and I want to be like leading the business in the future. And it probably did take a while for Mike and I to have that communication, because for a long time he probably wasn't considering me as a succession plan for the business, hence why we sort of went through the merge with Link Insurance Brokers. But I think through that process as well, we sort of learnt to communicate a bit better in terms of what we were both wanting out of the business. And yeah, so we went out on our own and sort of both went in as co-directors, and that's our journey how we are at the moment.
How good. Thank you. There's so many things that I want to, I guess, pick your brain in from all of that. The first thing is I love that your business is named after your daughter. You're the second person I've interviewed on one of these who've named the business after their kids, which I think is just so nice. And I think as well, the fact that and I love that you refer to your dad as Mike. But the fact that I think a lot of people out there wouldn't want to go into business with their parents. Like, I feel like that would be maybe a power struggle or something that people would just find really, really challenging. And you just said that there was a lot of communication, areas or challenges that you went through. How has that strengthened your relationship as like a father-daughter by going into business together?
Yeah, I was about to say, I think that was probably one of our biggest struggles in terms of like enhancing our relationship rather than just father-daughter. It developed into, initially like boss and employee, and then, over time as, I grew and came up the ranks through the business, and obviously to the point it is now where we're, colleagues and we're business partners. So that process and the different sort of communication styles through all of that, that has probably been the sort of most challenging thing that I have had. But in terms of our relationship, it's like it definitely goes through stages where we like are annoyed at each other, or frustrated with each other, but we always definitely try to keep our business relationship very separate to our personal relationship. So definitely in a professional aspect, I do reference him as Mike, but at home or when I call him, it's always Dad. So for us, it's just making sure that we've got that clear differentiation, so that I guess we're not mixing that business and personal side of things.
Yeah, sure. That makes sense. And so what, as business owners, what have been your biggest obstacles and challenges aside from, I guess, finding that balance?
Yeah, I think I think it's probably just sort of working together. Like, we've obviously known each other a long time in a very personal relationship, and I think the biggest struggle was probably really just understanding each other from a business aspect. So like for me personally, I and I'm not sure if it's sort of a female thing. I'm sure there's lots of females in the industry who can probably relate to this, but I was working like really hard trying to prove myself and earn my stripes in the business. And I was killing myself in the process in terms of how much work I was doing and how much responsibility I was taking on, because I was really waiting for him to extend that invitation to me to be like, "You're ready, come join me at the table." And I was getting frustrated because I was like, I'm working so hard, I'm doing so much. Why aren't I getting this invitation to come and sit at the table? Where on the flip side, he was getting frustrated because he was like, I not so much want her to step up because he knew how hard I was working, but he wanted me to take more of a leadership role. So he didn't want me, well, he didn't realize I was waiting for this invitation to come to the table. He wanted me to be at the table, and not just a seat at the table, but he wanted me to be leading the table. So we sort of, it came to this point where we just had this really sort of deep conversation about it. And it was just like the light bulb went off, and it was that sort of epiphany moment for me where I'm like, we want the same thing. We just went about this completely the wrong way, because I was always treating the relationship like a father-daughter relationship. Like, he knows what I'm like. He, he's my authority because he's my dad, and I need to, wait for permission. And he was
Yeah.
always like treating it as he should, as like a business sort of relationship, and going, I need her to show me what she can do rather than just doing sort of all the work on the side. So I think that start, like that communication thing, and that probably particular point in time was, quite, a pivotal point in our relationship from a professional perspective, because it taught us to both actually talk about what we both want, and
Yeah.
rather than just, again, because we have known each other for so long, just assuming that we know each other, what each other want, and can read each other's minds. So that was definitely like a changing point in our relationship.
Yeah, sure. I love that. And do you think that because of what you and Mike have kind of learned from a communication aspect, it's really, really helped you grow and communicate with your team?
Oh, absolutely. So I think for me, it was always about seeking that permission to be able to do that, and knowing that, like, I don't have to do that, or he's got my back regardless of, what decisions I make, because obviously as long as they're justified, then he'll always support me through that. And then sort of being that person where I am standing up at the table and I am leading the team, and allowing me the freedom and the confidence to do that. Absolutely. Like that, like, one of the things I also was concerned about was, from the team perspective, sort of seeing me as a colleague and an equal, to then all of a
Mm,
sudden sort of being their boss.
yeah.
But I think, yeah, having that kind of conversation with Mike, and then sort of very sort of internally having that confidence to go, you know what, I am the boss and this is how it's going to happen, then, like, everything kind of then just, like, kind of fell in place in terms of that, every Mike and I were also very transparent with the team about what each person's role is, including mine, including his, so that they know the journey that we're going on,
Mm.
and they're on board with that. So that's great.
Yeah, cool, cool. And I think after getting to know you over the last few years, like team is very, very important to you. Obviously, making sure everyone has a really, really great working relationship and environment. There's something that Stella Insurance offers, which I haven't seen in any other insurance brokerages, which is definitely a big point of difference for you. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm sure you do, but it's how you support people's families. Do you want to give a bit of context into what you do and how that has, I guess, helped grow your business?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So what you are referring to is our creche that we run on site. So we employ a qualified childcare worker to come and um, look after our children 2 days a week. So we run the creche on Mondays and Thursdays, which is just downstairs in our office. So the kids are very much sort of come to work with us, which is great. And we do love it. We know that no one else is offering it, and we love the fact that it, is a point of differentiation for us. For us, obviously, Mike and I, father daughter, but family is also very important to us. As a mother, I understand the pressures of trying to work and trying to raise a family, and it's hard. It isn't easy, and anything sort of we can do to help support that is really important, because that is what helps, like, the team. And no business is as good as the team that it has. So the better the team is in terms of obviously their ability, but also just the culture, it it helps the business be successful. So when we started up Stella, we both, so Rachel, who's been with us for like 13 or 14 years, both her and I had young children. So Stella was still only, I think, 6 months old, and her son was 2. And we had always joked about the concept of being like, oh, we need to run an on-site daycare, ha 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 ha. And we were all just at lunch one day, and Mike's like, I know we've always joked about it. And Rachel and I are just like, yes. And he's like, you don't even know what I'm saying. It's like, yeah, we do. We "You're gonna start the daycare." And he's like, "Yeah." And we're like, "Yeah, no, we want to do that." As working moms, it helps us because we can bring our kids to work when they're sick. We don't have to worry about doing the daycare, drop off, pick up. Um, we obviously understand that kids still need to socialize and have that sort of, formal education through their early childhood years, which is why we only run it 2 days a week. But it's just given us so much, like, it's so rewarding, even just to have them here. When we have morning teas or anything for people's birthdays or anniversaries, like, the kids come running upstairs. They think it's like the best time ever. It's party time, and they just bring another level of energy to the business, and it's really nice.
Yeah, I love that. It's so cool that they get to be there. And I guess you get to spend all that extra time with them while you're even still working, or you get off a bad phone call, you run downstairs, give your little one a cuddle, you're like, everything's okay again.
Yeah. And it's funny, like, we can be upstairs, working at the end of the month, and it's super hectic in the office and everyone's like stressed, and all you can hear is them laughing and giggling and dancing to music. And it just, like, it's a nice reminder of, what really is important. Like, work is important, but family is everything. And I always say to the guys, like, if you got stuff on for, Mother's Day or whatever at daycare, like, you need to be there, you need to go, because, like, they're the moments in time that your kids will remember. And not so much at daycare, but obviously as they get older at school, that, like, I want my guys to be the parents that are there, who turn up for their kids and, like, work around their life, not make, life around work. So,
Yeah, yeah, so good. Completely agree with you. So it's something I want to ask you about. So you are a wildlife biologist turned insurance broker. That's quite the quite the
quite
difference
the
in career
difference.
path you
Yes,
went
yeah.
down. So obviously you said you were speaking with Mike around what that career path looked like, and you were going to just do a little bit of temporary work to start off with, which obviously you never went back to wildlife biology.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest things is obviously the I guess the feeding of new people into the industry, and it's quite a challenge. And there's lots of different programs and grad programs and training development things out there that can help encourage people into the industry. So we had Hannah as a guest a few weeks ago, and she was speaking around the NIBA mentor program. She was talking about her mentor, and obviously 2 and 2 together, we know that you were her mentor. So I'd love to get your thoughts on being on the flip side of that program as a mentor as opposed to a mentee. What was it like, or what is it like for you being a mentor?
Yeah, like, to be honest, it took me a little while to sort of to find my feet. Because again, I get sort of myself, I get imposter syndrome. Like, I don't have that much, good stuff to share. But for me, it's always just making sure that, like, we find out the reasons why the mentee is looking for some mentorship, like what they're trying to get out of it, and just listening and supporting them through that. Hannah had enormous growth through her journey, and I was so proud of her. And we do still stay in touch, and I follow her in terms of her career and her journey, and I get a lot of rewarding feelings out of that, to know sort of the impact that I had on her career and her journey. Sort of, that's what, tickles my boat and warms my heart. So I think, and I think that's, like, the role of the mentor is really just to listen, share experiences, not so much to tell them what to do, but just to sort of be there as a reminder to be like, it's okay to have setbacks. You're very valid in having those feelings. But from here, like, now we need to put together, like, a game plan as to how we're going to keep moving forward, and how we're going to keep trying to reach that end goal. And I think just sharing insights, like, there was a lot of stuff I sort of said to Hannah, like, if I was in your situation, this is what I would do. And she, didn't go down that path, and she chose, to handle the situation in her own way, which was great. And they're the sort of things as well that you just, like, need to be open to, that you're not there to, to tell someone how to run their life or what they should do. It's just about being there and listening and supporting them and being their cheerleader, basically, because like a lot of the time that's what they need. There's like a confidence issue typically, and they're seeking out some guidance. And so I think just being that cheerleader to be like, you know what, you've got this, you're amazing, really, really helps as well.
Yeah, great. And what is your 2 cents for someone who's early on in their career about setting themselves up for success?
I think it really needs to come down to having a personal brand.
Mhm.
Our industry is like I'm based in Brisbane, so particularly the sort of Queensland Brisbane market. Everyone knows everyone. It definitely kind of is a bit of a who you know to sort of help progress your career. So the more you build your personal brand, that's about you, and you have, your reputation based on the values that you hold, and be present in the market and turn up and be authentic. So if you RSVP to an event, turn up.
Yeah.
The insurers know the people who always RSVP and whose name cards are left at the end of the table, on the table at the end of the night. Like they know and they remember. So it's about, just always turning up, being present and networking. I can't sort of
Yeah.
emphasize enough the importance of networking. Say hello to people you don't know at functions, and just meet people and grow and expand, and just always be, the best version of you, at least while you're out in like professional settings.
Yeah, sure, sure, sure. And aside from the networking and being out and about at events, how else do you grow a personal brand as an insurance broker?
It's definitely sort of like using LinkedIn, connecting with people. Anytime you have a conversation with someone on email or on the phone, I think jump on LinkedIn, connect. You can follow people and even just do like, some interacting on LinkedIn or social media, and engaging with people, creating content. But I think also it's just also about in the quality of work that you do for the business that you're in. So every interaction that you have with like an insurer or a supplier, like they also talk as well. So they'll be constantly going, oh yeah, I deal with, Joe Blow at ABC Insurance Brokers and he's always amazing or something like that. And it's just sort of word of mouth. So it's a very small industry. So always I think just being professional in everything you do from like a being at work perspective, taking on sort of some leadership responsibilities within your role or within the business also helps. And then growing your brand on, social media as well as in person, and just being really consistent with the message that you're trying to portray, in terms of how you want to present yourself.
Sure. Yeah. Love it. Love it. Love it. So something I'd love to ask you about, obviously, for some context for anyone who might be watching this, I've partnered with Kirsty for the last few years, helped build the team out at Stellar Insurance Brokers from a recruitment perspective. Talk to me about what's the impact of having a great hire on your business?
I'll say, like, I think I sort of mentioned before, like, that a business is only as good as the team that you
Mm,
and Um, we've definitely seen that like, over, the last 20 years in business. We've had some good teams, we've had some not so great teams. And it's not so case of an individual being bad. It's just some case it's just not the right fit. And like all we can do is sort of acknowledge that and part ways. Most of the people who have left our business we're still on good terms with, and again, follow their journey in their career, and super proud of what they do. I think also just it's important as a business owner to acknowledge that not everyone is the right fit for your business, and that's okay, and there's no ill intent there. But having a good team is so important, in terms of just like supporting each other, the culture that it brings to the business. Like we've got a really, really good team now. a lot of them have been, placed by you. And I think everyone just loves waking up in the morning and coming into the office. We've got great sort of personal relationships. Like on the weekend, I went out to one of my guys' home to help her plan her next holiday. So like it's just sort of about having the right people in the right roles and also supporting them on their journey so that they don't become sort of the wrong person for the role that's there, that you need to adapt the business to grow with them. And that sort of helps drive the culture as well, because there's nothing worse than waking up in the morning and you're like, oh, I don't want to go to work today, and everyone feels the same, and you get to work and it's miserable. So having that really sort of happy work life, I think just, extends so far beyond that. It helps, people in their own personal lives. It helps the business become more successful. And it is really key. Like making sure that you got the right people is one of the like biggest foundations to running a successful business.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And then taking that one step further, how do you then retain those people?
I think it's just a case of, as I said, like checking in, finding out what their goals are, and
Mhm.
working with them to help support it. And like we do have the benefit of being, a small team. There is 8 of us. So we have the ability to be a bit flexible with the positions and the roles that we have. So making sure that they always feel heard, that they're still growing and learning and developing, because like no one wants to be sort of stuck stagnant in a job or get to the top within the business and then can't see a career journey sort of moving forward. So like even Rachel, who's been with us for 13 years, like we've still got a career journey for her mapped out that helps support her, even though she's, a senior account manager managing, a portfolio of 600 plus. Um,
Mhm.
so it's just important, yeah, to sort of have those regular check-ins, making sure that everyone is happy and growing and getting out of it what they want to get out of it as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's so important. You're absolutely right. When I'm speaking with people in the market, one of the biggest things that we hear is that people feel they've reached their glass ceiling and there's no room to further develop. So yeah, I think that's great that you've got a really good plan in there. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today to speak with me and share your story. Do you think there's anything else of a value add that you'd like to throw in as a Hail Mary before we wrap this up?
So like I for me it is just about, and I'm not saying this because it's a plug, but I'm saying it because I truly mean it. But it is really important to work with people such as yourself who really understand your business, and that's in all aspects of everything, like from recruitment right through to even the systems and software or IT journey or whatever you want to go on for the business. Or as employee partnering with people who can help support your journey. But it is really important that you work with people who understand you and know what you want, and like that just makes the journey so much easier. And we worked together for a long time. You know what our business is like, and the talent that you bring to our business is, we have a great success rate because of how well you understand our business and what we're looking for through that process. So it's, yeah, communication, understanding, making sure values are aligned. That's all really important.
Oh, thank you. Oh, well, I've always loved supporting your business, so thank you. I appreciate that. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I've really, really enjoyed this, and looking forward to seeing what comes from Stella in 2025, new financial year.
Thanks, Nathan.
Thanks, Kirsty.